Hey, hi friends, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm again back with another Tableau developer interview with you guys. So if you are looking out for the change and if you want to get to know how the real interview happens for the Tableau profile or any data analytics profile, so I would consider watching this video. Will definitely help you to understand some scenarios and you can build up your confidence also. So take a pen and a paper, make a note of the questions and the answer that is being discussed in this call. Try to do your own research for the answers, because not necessarily my answers are not 100% correct, but you can consider the scenarios and the questions from this particular video. So without wasting much time, let's get started.
Years now, and I'm working as a lead technology here. Okay, so I have your resume open. Could you please walk me through your resume?
Yeah, sure. So I would start with my education and qualification first. Like, my name is Akshay. I have completed my bachelor's in electronics and telecommunications engineering in back 2015, and I do hold around 8 years of experience. And throughout this 8 year, like I worked in the different domains like the e-commerce, retail, banking. Uh, at my current workplace, I am currently into the retail domain and working as an individual contributor with the client. So throughout my experience, like, I have worked explicitly on developing the Tableau dashboards and developing the different business KPIs in order to run the business smooth. Like, I had closely worked with the different stakeholders, business users, to understand their requirement, and just to fill out their requirement, I have helped them out with the relevant SQL queries, like creating the views, tables and data models to prepare the proper data frame, and then develop the Tableau dashboard for the same. So, like, at my previous workplace, I had worked as a data engineer where I had managed end-to-end BI solution, like absolute from the developing the data models, developing the pipeline, and creating the front-end Tableau dashboard. So all those three phases I had handled, and that went well. Like, uh, for this particular project, I got good exposure on the developing the NIFI pipeline and developing the Alteryx workflow and SQL jobs at the MS SQL environment, and also explicitly create the views and update the existing views for the client. And along with
Okay,
that,
sorry to interrupt you,
Mhm.
Akshay. Could you please explain me any one of your dashboard that you think that it was the most critical one, or the most difficult one? You faced the lot of difficulties there, and what were those difficulties that you have faced?
Yeah.
Could you please explain me?
Sure. So I would walk you through my one of the project that I had worked end to end. So the basic intention behind the project was the client wanted to see the revenue across the region, and he wanted to identify, like, for which specific region he is getting very low revenue, so that they can further work with the machine learning engineers to develop their data models and to initiate some business strategies based on the uh, relevant KPIs which are associated with the different region. The project was about, like, they were tracking the transactions, like, within the country and country to country. Like, it was cross border transactions they were tracking basically, and they had a certain subtypes under it, like the online transactions, with card transaction, cash transactions and all. So the data source were present in different sources, like they had Hyperion data source, and the one another one was into Oracle, and one of the data source was present in the custom Excel file where they had the mid rate stored. uh, so I had to combine all these data sources at a single place in the Tableau server side, and then I had to create the Tableau dashboard for them. So in the requirement wise, they wanted to see all the currency transactions, like currency to currency transactions, for example USD to GBP or euro to GBP, like that transactions. And at a later stage they wanted to convert that transaction amount into the USD converted amount, like in the USD they wanted to see how much that transaction has happened, and along with that they wanted to see the spread rate and the revenue out of that transaction. And that was this clear ask, like they wanted to track that at year over year and quarter over quarter and the month over month. So that's supposed to be a
So
manual selection the stakeholder want to see.
What was the complexity there? So if you talk about like multiple currencies were there, so let's suppose we are converting Indian rupee to INC, we can just divide it by
Yeah,
whatever the,
yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
what was the complexity?
The complexity was into the data model basically. So they
Okay,
had a
what was that?
data stored in different sources, so I had to combine them at a single source, like at a single place,
Mm-hmm.
and then I had to bring that data at Tableau environment. So
Okay,
challenge was,
how the data was distributed? Like there were multiple tables
yeah.
in every. Okay,
So
and were they having same sort of a table structure or how it was?
they had a table structured in different format because the table was designed in such a way it's supposed to be used by different department based on their requirement, and each department should manipulate their data and create custom view to get relevant data which could be usable for their business perspective. So I had to select
So
the fields out of the each table.
so how did you create this data set for that?
Yeah.
Like you created that into the physical layer or the logical layer?
In the physical layer I created, like I bring that data in the Oracle first, like in terms of multiple table, and then I combine those table in the view, and then I created that view and deployed it to get that extracted in
No,
Tableau server environment.
I'm asking whether you used a physical layer in the Tableau or the logical layer.
Physical layer I had used.
Physical layer.
Yeah,
So you just used joins and unions
yeah,
for those different data sources. Okay.
yeah.
Did you use blending as well?
Yeah, I had used blending to get the mid-rate data into Tableau because they had an average mid-rate associated with each month and day,
Okay.
so that
I
was
have a
stored
question
in
there.
different Excel.
Can we can we can we create any of the data source as a primary data source and any second data source as a secondary data source? Can we do that?
Yeah, yeah, we can do
Or
that.
there are some limitations for the secondary data source
Limitations in the
when we are
sense, yeah, yeah, there are limitation, like if we are
Mhm.
using the secondary data source and then if we are developing any calculation which is a combination of the fields from secondary and primary data source, so the blend
Mhm.
happens like the whatever selections we do based on that it does link the internal fields, and in that particular order it first aggregate the fields which do restrict some deeper level calculations like LOD. We get incorrect numbers sometimes because aggregation happens first before joining in blending. So that is some sort of limitations I had observed in blending.
So let me ask you this question. Let's suppose we have a primary data source
Mm-hmm.
where we have categories, and
Mm-hmm.
in the secondary data source you have like the subcategories.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in the secondary you have category as well as the subcategory. So basically we want to know like how many distinct subcategories we have for every category mentioned in the primary data source. How
Mm-hmm.
can we do that? Can we use blending here?
We can go with it, and as we have the category is as a common field between the both data, so
Okay.
we can directly use it and drag it, so it will create a link between the category column and whichever uh, relevant subcategories are there under the category, it will pop up, it will show in the visual here.
Okay, but do you think the count distinct will work in the secondary data source?
Count distinct will not, because it will aggregate the subcategory values, so we get aggregated number from secondary data source if we are using it.
Yeah, so count distinct will work, na, as per
Yeah.
you. Okay. Okay, so I have another question. Like, let's suppose we have a very huge data source,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and our dashboard is not loading because
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of data in that data source.
Mm-hmm.
What all things that you would do to perform to
Mm-hmm.
improve the performance of this dashboard?
Yeah, so at the very first stage to understand the everything, like I would first run the performance optimizer in the Tableau, like I will download that report and open in Tableau desktop, and I'll toggle around the
Okay.
report, and based on my activity it will record the entire thing that I'm doing. In optimizer report, I'll look for the specific things like how much time it is taking to load the data and run the underlying queries. So I'll get that KPIs within it. So I will look for the data. As you said, the data volume is quite high, so I'll specifically look for how long it is taking to load the data. And let's say i I got it like data itself is taking lot use time to load as volume is high. So I will cross validate like which are the different fields we are using to develop the dashboard, and which are the unused fields still remaining in the data itself. So I would propose to cut
Uh-huh.
down those fields which were not used at all to develop the Tableau dashboard. So that way we get some get rid of some burden, extra burden to load that data. And parallelly, I would check for the calculation if any possibility to migrate any calculation to the backend SQL, so that we can get rid out of that part. Because sometimes what happens if the data volume is quite high and if we have some complex calculation built in, so it does take time to load and recompute that calculation in Tableau. So I'll check for that possibility if we can migrate that particular calculation in SQL itself in backend, so that we get that as a separate column ready in Tableau. So that way also we can improve the performance of the Tableau. Yeah.
Okay. So is that it?
Yeah, and there are other things also, like I look for the count of worksheets created in dashboard and how many worksheet actually used in dashboard. So just to cut down unused worksheet, or create the backup for those worksheet and keep it somewhere else, and only show or only create the relevant report with the relevant worksheets in the dashboard. If the dashboard is containing too many workbooks or worksheets, I would create another dashboard to split the worksheets across two different
That's
dashboard.
fine. That's fine.
Mhm.
That's fine, Akshay. So, have you heard of Pagination?
Pagination, I had heard, yeah, like for one
Yeah.
of
How will you do
the
that?
like maybe I'm incorrect. One of the thing that I did like ask was the client wanted a tabular form, but they had huge records in it. So in the single dashboard it was quite tough to scroll down all the time. So I had created a paging in the table itself, where with the help of indexing I had managed it and
Can you
parameter.
write that formula? Can you
uh,
write that formula?
I don't remember, but I had used indexing divide by some ranking, I believe. So that way I had created it. I'll try to
Okay,
write
that's
it.
fine.
I'm not able
Have
to
you?
remember, but I created that one. I referred one article.
What is
Mhm.
include LOD?
So include LOD is one of the type of level of detail calculation, where we can
Mm-hmm.
pass the dimension, and we can also pass the measure to get the aggregated measure associated with that dimension. We use include LOD specifically when, if let's say we have a certain visual created and we are not using any specific dimension in that visual, but we want a number associated with that dimension. So we can create the include LOD, and include we can pass that dimension and the uh, create the aggregation like on the specific measure, and use it in the visual, so that in the visual we get the numbers associated with that dimension. that that's how we
Give me
use
an
it.
example that very,
Mhm.
where you use include
uh,
LOD.
so let's see, we have the visual on the level of the subcategory and the product, and we don't have the
Mm-hmm.
category over there. So to get the cells associated with the category as well, we can use the include LOD. In include we can pass the category and sum of cells, and if you pass that particular calculation in visual, so as in the visual we have subcategory and the product, so we get the cells associated with the products. And if we use that include calculation in it, we get separate bar, which will show the category wise cells along with the same visual. So
Do you think
mhm,
that if you have your category and your product, so let's suppose you have a category on
mhm,
your visual,
mhm.
You want to show data on the basis of subcategory.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So do you think sum of sales of using a fixed category, a subcategory will work, and it will show you, like, the sum of sales basis the subcategory?
um, Subcategory, okay. So if I use the fixed, but as I have already category present or in the visual,
True.
so it will show me the sum of cell with reference to category only. But
Okay.
if I rearrange it, then I get the subcategory wise also. But for that,
No, no. So
mm-hmm,
yeah, but the use of fixed LOD is that if the dimension is not there on the visual
mm-hmm,
and you use the fixed, then that level of detail is changed to whatever the dimension that you have used in fixed,
mm-hmm,
right? And
yeah,
so now subcategory was not there on the visual,
mm-hmm,
right? And we included subcategory into our calculation.
mm-hmm,
Now if I pick this new this calculation which you created
mm-hmm.
onto your visual, would that new calculation using include LOD will give me sum of sales on the basis of subcategory?
Yeah, it will show, as I
It will
already
show.
have the category, so it will show.
No, no, you don't have subcategory there.
No, not for subcategory. For category, it will show.
But then what is the use of include LOD?
It works when we are not using any specific dimension in the visual itself. In that case, we can use the include.
So that's
Mm-hmm.
why I'm saying that include we are using include with subcategory, and subcategory is not there on the visual.
Correct.
So it should work now.
It should not.
Would that work?
It will not. As per the flow of the visual, we have the category
Mm-hmm.
already there, so it will show the category wise.
Category is already,
Yeah.
we have the category there, but we
Mm-hmm.
don't have that subcategory. We want to include subcategory.
Mm-hmm.
So we used include LOD, we included subcategory there, and then we wrote sum of sales.
Got. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, when we pull this new calculation onto the visual, it should give me sum of sales basis subcategory, right?
Yeah. It should
That
show.
is what you mentioned.
Yeah. But actually, in the visual itself, we have the category wise cell, so it will not show directly in terms of graph the cells associated with the subcategory. It will include that subcategory in the category cell
But
itself.
then what is the use of include? We
uh,
wanted to include subcategory in the calculation. What is the use of include then?
so it will help us in filtering, like if you are filtering any specific product, then it will consider the subcategory amount underlined in that calculation and show the amount.
How come?
As we are passing that as a include as a subcategory, so it will hold
Mm-hmm.
the aggregation of the associated with the subcategory of that particular product, and
Okay.
that way we get the relevant number. It will hold the aggregated amount of sales for the subcategory at a specific
So
level.
so where you are putting this new field?
We can put it is next to category or in the column side.
If you put it next to category or wherever in the visual you put it, you are saying it will just show me the sum of categories. I
Mm-hmm.
mean sum of the sales for category. Then what is the use of using this include functionality, or include function?
Mm, quite tricky to answer. I'll check for it.
Okay. Okay, no worries. Okay, so let's suppose you are Have you ever used virtual connections?
I didn't get chance, but I heard like it is for the, if you have a data source which is associated with multiple reports, we can use it as a virtual connection to switch between the workbooks. But in projects I did not used it specifically.
Okay. Okay. Have you heard of empty extracts?
Yeah, I did created it for one of the requirement where the data size was quite high. It was around 30 GB plus of data they had, and they wanted to create the data source extract at Tableau server side. So in that case I had created the empty extract with the true false conditions, and connected with the data source. And like how it works, like we connect with data source and create one calculated field, boolean calculated field, and associate that with the parameter and select as a false, and use that in data source filter as a false. So that way it shows nothing in the Tableau file. And we save that hyper file, and then before publishing to server we make that condition change, we make it a true. So that way it does load the entire data, but it does not load immediately. So we publish that workbook first at the server side, and then if we run the full refresh it loads the entire data at the Tableau server side. So that's how empty extract. Yeah.
Okay. Can we create a cross join
Mm-hmm.
on the physical layer of Tableau?
Full outer join we can create. Yeah.
I'm not asking about full outer join. I'm
Cross
asking
join,
about
like
cross join.
we can create a calculated field like passing one at the board table and perform that join. I think that is something close to cross join.
Okay. Let's suppose you have like around 80 columns on your data grid, and
Mm-hmm.
your so let's suppose you have more than 50 columns on your grid data grid, and
Mm-hmm.
your users want to see all of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how can we handle that?
The all column in the data grid.
Yes.
So okay. mm, I am not sure, but we I'll have to check for that. Like I'm not sure about the exact answer. I mean, they want to see the entire report at a single report in a single, yeah, workbook, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can bring that, but it would look quite messy. So I believe we may need to go with uh, some manipulations along with it to control the total number of column at front. But if they want to see entire columns in the single
Okay.
view, then
Let
I will have to
No
bring that.
worries. Uh, let's suppose you have 10 filters on your dashboard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and your user or your client wants that you need to create a clear button which will clear whatever the filters he has chosen on those filters, that should be cleared and all should be selected on all of them.
Mm-hmm.
How will you do that?
So we can create a we can create a button in action, I believe, where if we press that button or hit accept, so it will reset all the filters. There is one flow to achieve it, but I am not able to recall that at the moment. But yeah, there is a way to do it in action. We can link all the worksheet and all the filters in it and create that button.
Okay, so have you created some actions?
I created few actions like to control the filters and to change the parameters, and to navigate to the third party website if they select any specific chart or any specific portion of the chart. So in that case I had created it with the help of actions.
So let's suppose you have the have you used Jira?
Not specifically, like few things we had managed on Confluence on Rally.
Okay, let's suppose you have Confluence. You
Mm-hmm.
have multiple documents there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they all of them are located on one URL. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but whenever you click on any of the document, the URL will change.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the end of the URL, the document will be added.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now you create a grid, detail grid for these documents, and you have to put the document name and what are the details of those documents. And the user wants that whenever you click on that document should open on the URL, or in the web.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How can we do that?
I believe that that part is in Tableau, right? So that documents list
Yeah,
over there. So in
yes,
while
yes.
creating the HTTP, we get the hyperlink, like the main hyperlink, and we get one option over there to insert name. So in that we can map the name of all the document, and whenever we select any specific document, that hyperlink will, the end part of that hyperlink will be inserted with the name of that document. So with that way, for each document will hold a different URL, which is actual URL of that document, which will navigate them to the relevant website. So
So
that
where you will pass that the name of that documents?
we have insert option, like we when we use that URL,
Okay, okay,
so we, we
fair
we
enough.
map it with each document like that.
Okay, fair enough, actually. Yeah, so that's all from my side. Do you have any questions for me?
I would wait for the feedback, then I'm fine with
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Thank you, Akshay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.